Mr. President.
The senator from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased and honored to follow my distinguished colleague and friend from the state of Wyoming, and I rise to talk about exactly the same issue and to differ with him respectfully that the current law is unworkable, unpopular, and unaffordable. In fact, history demonstrates that it is certainly working. In the state of Connecticut, we know well that it is working as it was intended, because we have a state-run exchange and we've cut the number of uninsured by 1/2 while improving health quality and lowering Medicaid spending and making remarkable achievements across a whole range of metrics. That same story is true of our nation as a whole, whether there are state-run exchanges or federal supervised exchanges. And today's point, whether it's in the Supreme Court or here, should be extraordinarily encouraging about the Congress's approval of the Affordable Care Act and the fact that it is working across the country. It's succeeding in delivering exactly what was intended, what the Congress promised, what its advocates sought: access for all Americans to affordable health insurance. The ACA is working today to protect Americans from abuses, and I saw them literally day in and day out as Attorney General. People who lost health insurance when they got sick, people who were denied coverage because of a pre-existing condition, people who were charged more because of their gender, people who were denied the basic care that they needed and deserved for themselves and their children, their families, giving them access not only to health care, but also to work and to family stability. I saw every day as Attorney General how imperiled and critical health care is in this country, and how much we need to do more and do better in this area. The uninsured rate in this country is the lowest it's been in 7 years, and we've lowered it a remarkable 25% in just a year. 8 million people have gained health insurance through the exchanges who didn't have it before, and I know that states with federally run exchanges have made improvements just like Connecticut has done, which is fully in accordance with the absolutely crystal clear intent of this Congress and this law to provide affordable health insurance for all Americans, regardless of where they live, what state, what zip code, whatever their occupation and background. Let's be clear, as with any big law, there are kinks that need to be ironed out. There are glitches that need to be resolved, but the Affordable Care Act is working now and working better every month, every year. The legal issue before the court has been debated today in depth and, I believe, with great persuasiveness. Like the presiding officer, I had the honor to serve as a law clerk to the Supreme Court and to watch many arguments. To say that today's was historic, I think is true, but in my view, almost every argument before the Supreme Court is historic in its consequences, some more than others, but every one is consequential because cases don't reach the United States Supreme Court unless they are difficult and consequential. And issues of statutory interpretation that are said to be simple often are more complicated than they may seem. But I know without a doubt, having read this statute, that the text and structure of the Affordable Care Act clearly demonstrate, in fact, they unmistakably demand that federal tax credits be available to every eligible taxpayer in every state in this country. I've done arguments in the United States Supreme Court, and I had the honor to be Attorney General of the state of Connecticut, as well as a United States attorney. And having looked at this statute as a whole, having read the words that need to be interpreted by the Supreme Court, I've reached this conclusion. Contrary to the arguments of partisan opponents, both the act itself and the plainly overwhelming evidence from its consideration and passage demonstrate its nationwide scope. I wasn't here at the time it was passed, but from the legislative history, and most important, from the structure and language of the act itself, there seems to be irrefutably and incontrovertibly an understanding that tax credits would be available regardless of which governmental agency set up an exchange. The act simply would not have worked any other way, and the courts have an obligation to read statutes in a way that makes the most sense in terms of the overriding intent and purpose of the Congress. The financial support simply for universal coverage would not be there without this interpretation, a common sense interpretation that makes sense of congressional intent and purpose and the law as a whole. The law has given so many families across the country access to care for the first time. There's been an effort to repeal this act legislatively. There's been an effort to overturn it in the courts. Both have failed because it is working and because it is constitutional. A ruling for the plaintiffs in this case that's now before the court would not only be contrary to law, it would be catastrophic to millions of families who owe their health insurance to the structure that the ACA has established. It would be, in fact, a human tragedy as well as a legal travesty. There is simply no alternative that has been offered by opponents to this law. It's difficult, therefore, to see how this misguided lawsuit is anything other than one more cynical attempt to repeal or overturn this law or torpedo it by any means necessary, regardless of the collateral damage to millions of innocent people who would suffer loss of health care insurance and health care. And the tragedy would be not only for them, but for our entire nation, because the costs would ripple throughout our society. Costs in lost work, costs in families suffering from the consequences of bankruptcy, which is caused most frequently by healthcare-related financial issues. Costs in the ability of our workforce to function at the height of efficiency that we all need, and costs ultimately in diseases that have to be treated, in ailments that have to be addressed, in preventable healthcare consequences for our children. Prevention is one of the most cost-effective goals of the Affordable Care Act. So I will work with my colleagues to support this act and to determine what other efforts can make progress toward the ultimate goal that we all should share. An America that is free from disease or injury that will bankrupt them and their families. An America that is healthier and better able to afford health care and quality and timely health treatment. The lack of standing on the part of these plaintiffs seems clear, but put aside all of the technical issues, the legal debate, the Affordable Care Act has allowed America to make huge, exciting strides in the direction of better health care. And so we should be proud of an act passed by this body. Even many of us, perhaps, who were not here at the time, can look forward to how much further we can go, and America has that fundamental obligation. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor, and I suggest the absence of a quorum.